The low one looks a little weird to me, but that's because it's not filled with racks and plates and stuff. Here we are with the stainless steel panels placed just leaning up against the wall. This is what they look like when the protective layer has been removed. All of those little slots except a key, and then you can hang accessories off of that slot. So these are very configurable, and I think they're going to look just fantastic. They're in keeping with the rest of the sort of brushed steel look of the kitchen. Here's what they look like when they arrive from the manufacturer. They're coated or covered in a sort of a plastic wrap layer that you have to peel off. That's just to stop them from getting scratched in the shipping and handling. So that's kind of what this back wall is going to look like in the end. Let's back up a little bit to give you an idea of the aesthetics. It's got that perforated steel look. I think it's going to look awfully nice as a wraparound, but we'll see. If I do it as a wraparound, it'll be very interesting to see what I do around that electrical receptacle and whether or not I choose to duplicate that behind the stainless steel. I would have to use extremely flat cable to do that, but I would probably just use what we call 14-2 satin, which is the kind of cabling that we use in North America. It should be flat enough, I hope, but I'll probably have to do some hackery to get that working, and I would of course have to cut an opening for the electrical. But for now, the back wall, there's no power back there, so I don't have to worry about it. And I have the two sides. They're going to be a fairly exact fit, which makes me quite happy. And I'm thinking that that brushed stainless look is going to be a nice complement to the rest of the appliances, particularly the stove and the range hood. So it's all going to hopefully look fantastic once we're done. That's the next step, is to just get a very preliminary idea of what this back wall's going to look like soon. We're back on the kitchen project today, specifically the stainless steel backing panels that I intend to install on this back wall. What I've done is I've selected a bunch of different spacers because we're going to shoot this off the bottom of the well, where the wall meets the countertop, and I figured I would just use these guys as a means of spacing out the panels. We've got a distance from this little cabinet return of 64 centimeters, and these panels are, I think, something like 45. No, they're 55. Where are we? Ah, there we go. Yeah, 55. And the height off of this guy is 64, pretty much exactly. So we've only got 9 centimeters to play with. It's 55. Oh yeah, 9. So that means that no point spacing them. Could space them proportionately. That's one way to go. Or it could be a little fatter off the bottom or the top. Considering the fact that we're going to be hanging stuff off of there, it might be good to just have a minimal separation, but a separation. I could snug it up right against the bottom, or I could leave a little bit of a gap, because we'll have stuff on the counter. So the decision now needs to be where to orient these panels so they sit pretty on the wall. So I'll do a little thinking and let you know what the decision is. Basically, we've got a 55 centimeter panel that needs to fit in a 64 centimeter space, and it's got to be able to be maximally useful and aesthetically pleasing. So one thing I could do is I could look at how this panels have been installed in other kitchens to get an idea of how much of a gap I'd like to leave on the bottom, because it's definitely shooting off the bottom. That'll also just make it look straight, hopefully. This kitchen is probably nowhere near straight, so that window frame and that countertop are almost certainly not square, which would be an interesting thing to find out. Let's see if we got a combination square hanging around here somewhere. We do. Alrighty, let's see what the square says about countertop versus window frame. It's reasonably good. Yeah, that's okay. Sitting okay, so we might be able to get away with reasonably attractive install. The question is how much gap on the bottom. Curious to know what you would have used. I mean, I'm going to go ahead with whatever I pick, but I wonder what you would use. I might just use the thickness of the board as opposed to the height. These are all just spacers to help model what it might look like. So I'll start playing with them and see which one looks best. Check out the results in a sec. Okay, it's decision time. We have two different heights modeled here. This first one on the right is more of a proportional mount. The top and the bottom gap is more or less equal, and that's kind of what it would look like if you left a 3.5 inch gap or so. The gap was 9 centimeters, so this would probably be around 5. And then we have something more like a 2 centimeter gap with a much larger gap at the top, especially behind the return. And the reason why is because you got to put plates. Typically you're putting plates up there at the top, and you want to have enough clearance from the bottom to get your hand in and reach that 10-inch plate. So when I was looking at the demonstration video for these panels, I noticed that they put a reasonably large gap at the top. Now the issue with this particular mounting is that where's the top? Is the top there? Or is the top there? The other thing I did was I faded it back from the edge of the window a little tiny bit, and I left about one, maybe a little less than one width of the panels in the corner. And this is because if I install along this back wall here, I want that corner to look nice, look good. I don't want a gap, so that's how I did that. Now I could drift it back a little tiny bit and leave enough of a gap there so I could slide the other panel behind it and give myself a bit more leeway, just to make sure I don't end up wrong-footed here, because there is no forgiveness here. So I could give myself 4 or 5 millimeters of leeway that way. Might do that, just make sure I have enough of a gap there for the finishing. That's going to, but the major decision to be made here is it closer to the countertop or further away? And my leaning right now is to go snugger to the bottom so as to leave more of a gap in the top. And that might also play well on this side where we have the cooktop and other appliances. These guys are just leaning up against the wall right now, but I'm going to have to figure out their spacing as well. So that's kind of how it's going to end up looking. And which one? So I'm going to look it over and make up my mind. It's going to be one of those two for sure. I kind of like the evenly spaced one. The low one looks a little weird to me, but that's because it's not filled with racks and plates and stuff that project well above the height of the top. So maybe a little more looking at it will reveal to me which way to go. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, giving me a like, and leaving me a comment. I really enjoy making these videos, and I want to know from you how I can make them better. The whole point of these videos is to demonstrate that if I can do something, you can do it too. Well, that's it for now. So long, and remember, keep making.